Hello, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm so excited about the topic we have for you today. I just listened to Brian and Robin Joy. They cover the bulk of the episode today with a phenomenal concept that has really been sweeping through our community for the past couple of years, I'd say, and it's picking up speed. To my knowledge, we are still, surprisingly, the only ones talking about this exciting angle for selling on Amazon. I'm talking about selling everyday boring items. I'm talking about charging more money than your competitors are charging for those same items and selling them at a steady pace while virtually never putting your capital at risk because you're only selling on the items where you know your worst case scenario is, almost certainly your worst case scenario is, you're going to break even on your inventory. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the above buy box strategy. Now, for some reason, it's starting to get the reputation of being somewhat complex. I think that's because it's hard to explain without using visuals. And visuals can be hard to do, especially this is an audio podcast. Visuals can be hard to do in written text as well. But if you can use your imagination for me, just focus and concentrate on one concept for a moment. And I'll turn it over to Brian and Robin Joy here in just a moment, a couple of great coaches on our team. They do a great job of illustrating this as well today. But I wanted to do some opening and closing comments after I listened to their episode. And I want to create a visual in your mind. This is vital. If you're going to succeed selling on Amazon as a reseller, or maybe even bringing your own products to the market at some point, you need to imagine the Amazon network of warehouses has 200 different locations spread out across the country. And at any given time, one of those warehouses has an advantage over all other warehouses in serving the customers that live near that one single warehouse. Stated differently, unless someone has encouraged or taught you to think differently, you likely think of Amazon right now as either a shopper or a seller, as one large central warehouse where everyone goes to source the best possible prices. That's just not how it works. The evidence is overwhelming, in fact, that model of thinking about Amazon is so broken that you'll be leaving literally millions of easily sourced products off your list of viable products if you think about Amazon the wrong way. You've got to think about Amazon as a couple hundred warehouses spread out across the country. And at any given time, one of those warehouses has a huge advantage over the rest for serving the customers that live near that one single warehouse. And when you start thinking about Amazon that way, you start to realize you could have a very different price than all the other sellers on virtually any product and still win sales. A very higher price and still win sales. We illustrated all kinds of exciting different ways around here all day, every day. And now we've got visual evidence for you as well. I'll let Brian and Robin Joy dive into that a little bit. I'll jump back on the episode at the end of the show today because a couple of the things that they shared with you, there's some resources that didn't make it into the episode that I want to be sure to put in front of you. There's a robust list of resources for today's episode. A lot of it's just free stuff. Some of it's the tools that we're talking about. You don't have to go out and invest in a bunch of tools in order to do this strategy. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to see the proof for yourself, you can absolutely start to deploy these tools. And one of the other things that we're getting very excited about around here, it's a bit of a strategy shift. I've got to say that I'm excited to see this happening because I think for the first time, we're moving away from a model of looking for profitable products. I got to find something profitable. Where can I find something profitable? To saying, hey, I've got hundreds and hundreds of ASINs that are occasionally profitable, and sometimes they're not. And I'm going to use a tool to tell me when I should be getting in and out of those ASINs, buying a few at a time. Thousands of ASINs now can be tracked, completely automated. So it's not about having my handful of winners and then next month I'm going to have a different handful of winners. That's a hamster wheel model that can't be automated. We're moving into a phase now, and Brian spent some time talking about it today. It's reignited him. He said after 5 years, he's getting reignited with excitement. I love that portion of the show today. You'll hear him say it. where I can just go find a whole bunch of ASINs, load them into a machine, and the machine tells me when it's time to go buy which ones, when it's time to move in and out. Phenomenal time to be a reseller on Amazon. I would argue there's never been a better time. The stars are aligning in many different ways right now. All the big trends, all the clarity that Amazon is giving to the policies, all the enforcement consistency that we're beginning to see. I'm just not hearing any stories of people getting suspended and no one knows why. They're completely clueless. No one understands. Amazon just randomly shut them down. No, that's not happening. It simply isn't happening. There's a very good reason. And Amazon lets you back in once it's addressed 99 point something percent of the time. So a lot of clarity, a lot of consistency. The market is exploding, and these kind of tools that are being developed primarily in our community, we just plugged into, I mean, we're speaking into the development of Keepa and different features that they have. If you're not familiar with what Keepa is, go listen to podcast episode 369. It's important for you to understand why that's such a vital tool. It simply scrapes data that no one else has available on Amazon. That's what makes them so powerful and valuable. But they don't have a full picture. So we're starting to create a full picture of, again, this incredible opportunity that starts to emerge once you understand that Amazon is not one single central warehouse where people go to price sensitively shop. It's just not. It's hundreds of warehouses spread out, and at any given time, any one of those warehouses has a huge advantage in winning the business over the people who live near that warehouse. And it's understocked on millions of products at any given time. I'm confident in saying every single Amazon warehouse in their 200 warehouse network is understocked on millions of items right now. And that's not going to change anytime soon because the people who want it fast don't have as many options as they'd like to have. It's that simple, and that gives you the opportunity to sell above buy box. Some of the resources that get mentioned today, we've got Smart Scout. Go to silentjimdotcom/SS if you want to pick that up yourself. They gave us a great deal on Smart Scout. They're providing a visual map right now. Brian and Robin Joy will give you that in a moment. Because if you don't believe us about the buy box and how different it is all across the United States at any given time for any given product, well, now we've got a map that shows visual proof for the first time ever. And pretty much every ASIN that you look at on this map, it shows these wildly different buy boxes and these wildly different delivery times for the same products. That's right. You can have products that are 1 or 2 day delivery on the East Coast, 15-day delivery on the West Coast with wildly different buy boxes in both regions. And that's big regions. You can even have within certain areas, like say in the Midwest, you'll have some, Indiana where you can get it in 2 days. Well, Illinois next door, it's going to take you 6 days. It's incredible to see it visually laid out in front of you for the first time ever. Smart Scout has that. You don't need the tool to do this, but it's pretty cool to see it. It will start to show you where a lot of the opportunities are. So that's Smart Scout, silentjim.com/SS. Another tool that Brian and Robin Joy mentioned today on this great episode is Nepedo, a great sponsor of our community as well, as is Smart Scout. But Nepedo will also be at our conference. We've locked them in, but they've got a great deal for our community as well. If you go to silentjim.com/OA leads, as in online arbitrage, OA leads, LEADS, silentjim.com/OA leads. All these links are in the show notes, by the way. They've got a great deal for us as well. They really help you find the source for all of these great ASINs that you're going to be locating as you dive into our training and content. So we're using that tool more and more. You're going to hear Brian and Robin Joy talk plenty about that today. 3P Mercury is the tool. We've been calling it the system around here for months. You can go to silentjim.com/the system. That is the complete workflow system that I've been able to speak into and help develop. And full disclosure, I do have a part ownership in this company as well, as does our coaching director, Nate, as does my favorite podcast guest of the last several years, Kang. Go listen to episode 754 if you haven't yet. You'll hear all about it. But the system is a complete workflow software system for everything reseller. Walmart, Amazon, that's where you load all of your viable products into, and it'll tell you when it's time to go buy more, helps you manage the complete workflow. It's what King used to run a $3 million Replens business with a tiny team of 2 people, and his job was just to decide how much money to put into inventory any given month. That's it. That was his job. That is his job. And now he's developing this software along with our team, speaking into it. It's past the beta stages. It has launched. Walmart functionality is coming. It is phenomenal. So when you hear Brian getting excited towards the end of the episode today, talking about how he's pivoting over into 3P Mercury and seeing great results because he can now track so many ASINs in an automated fashion, that's what he's talking about. silentjim.com/the system, also called 3P Mercury. They'll be at our conference as well in May. Everyone we're talking about today is going to be at our conference in May, the last 3 days of May. There's a workshop happening the 2 days prior to that as well. If you want to hear about our workshop where you can sit down in a room with Brian and Robin Joy, who you're about to see if you don't know who they are, 2 great coaching directors on our team, spend 2 full days, laptops open, small group setting, diving in deep into these concepts so you can take 3 to 6 months of progress in a couple days with your business. Check out the workshop that happens on site, same location in Orlando at the same resort 2 days prior to our conference. So the 2 links you need, theprovenconference.com. That's the main event. Hundreds of people are already registered. If you want to be in that small group workshop, though, go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. That's provenamazoncourse.com/100. The 100 ASIN workshop, we like to call it. Check it out. Brian and Robin Joy will be your one-on-one presenters and professors for that event the 2 days prior to the conference. Finally, there's a YouTube video that you might want to go check out. I created some visuals. I'll stick it in the show notes. I'm not going to reference it now, where I show you that map inside of Smart Scout and why I'm so excited about it. It was a post in our Facebook group as well. A lot of people discussing it. But I can't emphasize enough that if you think winning the Amazon reselling game is a matter of beating the price of your competitors or winning the buy box more than other people, here's the deal. There's no such thing as an Amazon buy box. I think it's almost a borderline nonsensical concept for many ASINs because not only is it changing constantly, but it's different at any given point in time across the entire United States with different delivery times and different prices. And until you understand that and understand how to find the underserved ASINs in Amazon's catalog, and there are millions of them, and we demonstrate that, then you don't understand what it means to be a reseller on Amazon. It's not about finding the cheaper product and hopefully beating your competitor with a better price. You can play the game that way, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money playing the game that way, but it is not, by far, it is not the only way to play the game, and the doors are wide open. So few people are taking time to understand these strategies. Sorry for the long open today, but I'm so excited about this. Hopefully it comes through. Brian and Robin Joy do a great job tackling this, and I love their brownie illustration. Look for that. Got a hungry person wanting a brownie. How are they going to decide which brownie to buy? It's a great illustration. I'm going to join this episode again after Brian and Robin Joy's segment. I wish we'd have had a chance to kind of do it all together at the same time, but schedules didn't allow. So I'm going to tack on a couple closing thoughts and questions for you after they've presented as well, because I really want to drive this point home today. It's time for you to understand just how irrelevant the buy box really is for millions of ASINs on Amazon, and you can make a lot of money once you understand this lesson. Enjoy your time with Brian and Robin Joy. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, we got some exciting news this week.
We did?
Really exciting news.
What exciting news is that, Brian?
We got validation in a visual form of the multidimensional buy box.
Yes.
This is something we have experienced as before not only in our own business, but working with coaching clients. And we were able to see it, but to actually capture all the pieces and parts required to, prove it out. I mean, we had it. It was a little harder like a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
So where do we get this picture and where can we see it, Brian?
Well, the picture was demonstrated by Jim Cockrum in the Facebook group, the My Silent Team Facebook group.
Yes, if you're not a member, go over there. It's a free Facebook group. Come and join us. 80,000
strong and growing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Award-winning.
Award-winning.
Yes.
That's right. this podcast, the Facebook group, and the conference, all award winners. But anyway, so I subscribe to Smart Scout. And Scott Needham is the person who develops or leads the development of that tool, Smart Scout. And I'm on his email list. He said, hey, got this new feature, and you can basically pull up a map of the United States, put it in an ASIN. I mean, you put it in ASIN, and it pulls up a map of the United States. And then it shows you, based on which state you might be ordering that product from, how long it might take to get to you.
Yes, how many days?
How many days?
Meaning these are in the ASINs where it takes more than the 48 hours. Then you can see how much more and where it only takes 48 hours and where it takes much longer for you to get. So this shows us the multidimensional buy box, right? So tell us a little bit more about what you're talking about and how that can help us.
So a couple of years ago at the Proven Conference, we sort of, I don't say broke the news, because I think people had been experiencing it before, but tried to explain what the multidimensional buy box was. And basically this means if there's over 150 or almost 200 fulfillment centers of Amazon's across this country. Okay. And those distribution centers or fulfillment centers are stocked with inventory, some better than others.
Yes.
And so you might be looking at a product. If you live in Seattle and I live in Miami, we could both look up the same product and get a different set of results for A, which seller is in the buy box, B, what that price of the buy box might be, and C, how long it might take for you to get it.
That's right. So the multidimensional buy box not only can be different prices for different regions, but it can be different prices throughout the day as the price goes up and down. The price, we know, doesn't stay the same on most ASINs. It goes up and down.
If you ever want to test that theory, just go put a bunch of things in your cart. And then the next time you go back to Amazon to go shopping, you're going to get a list of the prices have changed on these items. Some of these items are no longer available, right?
So that up and down movement combined with the geographical difference movement, how long would it take to get to your, to be delivered to you, create a multi-dimension in the buy box itself. So does that mean that we should use the buy box to decide how much we're going to charge?
Well, we don't. We do recommend using the historical buy box data
to give us a clue,
to give us an idea, because it is presenting us with evidence to determine about what should we be selling this item for, or about how much could we expect to get out of it on the high side.
Right.
Right.
And so think about this when you're looking at history in Keepa, which is the one tool that we really think you need to have a Replens business. But you're looking at Keepa, you're looking at evidence, things that Keepa can show us, but we're not looking at proof of anything. So we may see that the buy box has been going up and down in different places. We may see the buy box was pretty steady across. That doesn't mean anything more than that's where Keepa was looking at the moment it pulled the data. And then it's only one day at a time throughout history, so that it's usually the lowest price on that day. So we don't want to say that it's only selling for what the historical buy box says, because that's absolutely not true. And we've seen that over and over and over because of, the best way we can explain it is the multidimensional buy box. You may get a completely different seller presented to you because their inventory is nearer you, and Amazon can meet their obligation as much as possible to get that to you in the time they say it'll get there.
The other thing that is really interesting about this multidimensional buy box is how it applies to selling above the buy box. Okay, one of the things that we don't know, we know Keepa captures a lot of data and shares a lot of data with us. But what we don't know is what is Keepa representing from a geographical location when it's gathering its data, when it logs in and says, okay, let me gather all the pieces and parts about this particular ASIN, primarily its bestseller rank, right? And all the the title, not primarily, there's so many pieces of information besides the bestseller rank, but the BSR is really, maybe that and the buy box are the two things that most sellers are focused on. And so because we don't know that, and it could be different at different times when they're coming to check. I just don't know that.
From what I understand, Keepa does check different locations all the time, but just one location at a time, per ASIN. So, I mean, that makes sense to me. It also makes sense to me if that's the case. If I see a spike where it went up real quick, I'm going to be encouraged that that's probably not the only time that happened.
That happens all the time, right? Where we see the buy box pops up and then it comes right back down, or it goes down and comes right back up.
Or it goes up and down and up and down and up and down.
Or it's continually
in between two numbers.
It's highly volatile, right? Between in a range. And so the reason I'm attracted to I like those volatile ASINs because if I'm looking at an ASIN on a particular day, or they keep a chart of an ASIN on let's say on Tuesday, and on Tuesday that it's showing me that when I log into Amazon, that the price I would pay is $20, but then I log in on Thursday and the price I would pay is $25. What happened, right? Is it because, well, we know what it is, right? Inventory is not available at that lower price in a reasonable amount of time, and so Amazon's showing us the best option for our shopping needs.
As a featured price, that is often the case.
Yeah.
So remember that Keepa doesn't have the information directly from Amazon. They scrape this information, so they don't have the ability to discern these different things. So we can use that information, but we have to remember we have to do the testing. We have to find out if that's the case. And so one of the reasons, I mean, I've seen Amazon take the buy box completely away because there's nobody who is they can get that to any customer within that 48-hour period.
Window.
The prime window is what we call it. Yeah.
So there's no buy box unless it's Amazon who's back ordered, right? They can't get this there in time.
Yeah, I've seen it both ways on even Amazon, actually.
But there's no suitable delivery time, and so Amazon suppresses the buy box because they don't want to get people's hopes up. We've had this happen before.
Yes.
Right? Back before we started selling on Amazon, it was like we bought something, and I'm like, a week and a half goes by. I'm like, where is that darn Amazon? I bought that Prime.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the product didn't come, and we called, we emailed Amazon, like, where? What the heck? This didn't get here on time. Well, they were still...
I think in these cases, they were not prime sellers that we were buying from, because this was before we had things like so many warehouses across the U.S. When we first started selling in 2019, there were comparatively speaking, many fewer warehouses across the United States. So this situation would happen less often than it does today. Also, this was before, and we would look for a pretty steady buy box back then. That would give us some security. No longer the case. Now I want to see that buy box moving around because I want to see what's my highest possibility, because I can always go down, but I'm going to test the highest I can justify. I'm going to test there and see if I can get that first.
That's kind of where I was going a minute ago and got sidetracked. But the reason I like the multidimensional buy box when it comes to selling above the buy box is I could have a historical price, maybe last week, that shows the price was $25, and I want to sell mine for $25, and I can have a high degree of confidence that I can at worst break even on this thing. Then I'm gonna put it in at the price I have the highest price I have evidence for, and see if I can sell it at that price.
Exactly, because why would I leave money laying on the table? My business is to get as many ASINs as I can anyway. So if I'm only gonna sell a few on that fast moving ASIN, then I want to sell it for as much as I can get out of it. Why wouldn't I test it? Okay.
Yep.
So another thing that's changed from the old days, I know it hasn't been all that long, but in this world of e-commerce, it moves pretty fast. So another thing that's changed in the way we look at things, and the reason we like to see a more volatile buy box, is that now even a prime seller can have inventory that's not available within 48 hours, because Amazon, often on those fast-moving ASINs, will make that inventory available as soon as I drop it off at UPS. So obviously it's not at Amazon yet. I just dropped it off. So it's not physically there. They can't physically get it to anybody within 2 days or 48 hours or less, like their prime promise often is. So but they still put it out for sale, and they put it out for sale and they tell you, you can get this, you can buy this right now, but you're not going to get it for 10 days. That's very common. You might have seen that when you're shopping Amazon quite a bit lately. It happens more and more and more with more and more ASINs.
For 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Or three, sometimes
weeks,
even more. Right.
And what you're talking about is the In-Stock Head Start program.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, the In-Stock Head Start program.
What I'm going to call a secret to selling above the buy box is understanding how the In-Stock Head Start program works. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what happens is on a select group of ASINs, depending on inventory status, Amazon, if it sees that one of those items is in your box and you're enrolled in In-Stock Head Start program, Amazon may elect to go ahead and make that item available with the buy box as soon as it gets checked in by UPS, scanned in by UPS.
Right. So what happens is it shows to a lot of repricers and a lot of impatient sellers, oh, it's there, it's available for somebody to buy, but nobody's buying it yet. Okay? So what we need to remember is Amazon, whether they meant to or not, has drawn a customer base that is way more time sensitive than they are price sensitive. We know this because they don't mind paying more to get it quickly. We've seen this over and over and over. So I've been trying to explain this for many months now. I've been trying to get this out in a way that makes sense, not just in my head, but to get it across. So I asked you for an analogy, and I think you gave me a great one. I tried it with a couple of coaching clients last week, and they really responded. So let me try it on you guys and see what you think.
Guinea pigs in mass.
So let's pretend we're going to a bake sale, okay? And at this bake sale, there are 3 tables that are selling brownies. Exact same brownies. They're all in the oven, and they'll all be ready at 3 o'clock. Okay? But it's 9 o'clock in the morning. People are coming by, and they're saying, I want a brownie. Well, the first table says, my brownies are $1. Okay? The second table says, my brownies are $1. And the third table says, my brownies are $5. Okay. So we go to the first table and you say, I'd like a brownie for $1, please. And they say, well, I'll have to bring you one at 3 o'clock because they're still in the oven and they're not going to be ready until 3 o'clock. Oh, well, I don't want that one. I'll go to the next table. Can I get a brownie for $1, please? Yeah. Except they're not going to be ready until 3 o'clock, right? You can't have one right now. Go ahead and pay me and then I'll bring you one at 3 o'clock. No, I want a brownie now. Well, the $5 table, his brownies aren't available either. So the first table, he says, look, I'll give it to you for 75 cents. Will you buy it for 75 cents? Okay, I'll buy one for 75 cents and you bring me to me later on. So the day goes on and they continue to negotiate with these $1.75 brownies, and they keep lowering their price and getting them all sold. But the guy with the $5 brownies, he never moves his price. He just waits. They're still in the oven. They're not ready yet. And he doesn't touch his price. So at 3 o'clock, more people come, and the first 2 tables bring out their brownies. They've all baked 3 dozen brownies. The first table baked 3 dozen brownies, and he sold them for 75 cents each. The second table baked 3 dozen brownies, and he sold them for $1 each. But they're all sold out, and they can't get any more money for them then. So the new people who are coming at 3 o'clock to the tables go to the $5 table and say, can I have a brownie, please? These guys are both out. And you say, yes, it'll be $5. He says, thank you very much. Here's $5, and he gets a brownie. The customer had no problem with price. He had a problem with time. So those who tried to sell their brownies early, they sold them for way lower than they had to, way less than the customer is willing to pay if they had had a brownie ready. The guy who waited until he had actually a brownie to give them got a lot higher price because he held his ground, he held his price until he was the only one with any, and he could get whatever price he wanted for it.
I kind of made a shortcut version of that same story,
Yeah.
But we cut ahead to where all the the 3 or 4 brownies are sold out at 99 cents.
Yeah.
But the one person is left with $5. If I'm walking up there, I'm like, oh, I see 5 people selling brownies. 4 of them are super cheap, 75 cents, $1, but they don't have any brownies.
They're all gone.
And then the last person has brownies. They're $4.99. And that's what I'm there for, is a brownie. So that's what I pay.
Exactly. So those sellers who sold for 75 cents and $1 lost out on a lot of money that you're going to make now for the rest of the afternoon.
Now, maybe they make multiple batches and, whatever they sell at the end of the day, maybe they sell more units, but I bet you I made more profit per unit.
Yes, I made more profit per unit, which makes up for that. It's less money, less ingredients,
Less work.
Less work, right? And so in that case, the seller then has sold for too cheap, in my opinion. The seller who is taking your money before it's available has sold for less than he wanted to, and less than the customer is willing to pay, simply because they had to wait.
Yep. I was trying to think of another analogy, like when we're on a lunch break.
Yeah.
Many years ago, used to work near a mall, and there were times when we would go over to the mall food court for lunch. And so we would go into the food court.
You and your cronies.
Yeah, and it would be like we would decide where we were going to eat based on the shortest line. Was the shortest line the cheapest or most inexpensive place to eat? Usually not. Not that.
Usually not.
The other places that had long lines, they were maybe the most affordable. But I was on time. Like, I didn't have time to wait in line. I already spent 15 minutes to drive there. Okay, then I got to account for 15 minutes to go back. I can't wait in line for 20 minutes or whatever to get my food and then have to, I was like, I want to walk in, get my food, have plenty of time to enjoy the meal, and then pick up and go. So
because your time was way more important than your money.
Exactly.
Pretty soon it was going to start costing you money. If you lost your job or got dinged for not getting back on time, that's going to be way more expensive than the extra $2 or $3 you paid for lunch.
This actually brings me to something that we talked about recently, off script.
Uh-oh, here we go.
That's why you're giving me the eye. What? No, a lot of times especially in the early days of building this Amazon business, we are in a trading time for dollars model. Okay, we have to invest the time to do the research, to buy the product, to prep it, to ship it, to do all the back end work, yada, yada, right? But eventually, once we have our systems in place, then we actually are going to trade dollars for time.
Right.
And we're going to do this in a way of like, we're going to hire people to take those tasks, some of those tasks off of our plate so we get time back in our life.
We're going to outsource.
Right? We're going to outsource some stuff. Well, this is no different when I go to lunch. Right. Yes, I'm going to trade a little bit of my money, but it's for the time, and the time is worth more to me in that case.
Yep.
Not always the case, but it is.
Right. But the customers, the target customer that Amazon has attracted with it, again, whether they meant to or not, they've attracted a customer whose time is worth way more than their money, apparently. Because that's the way they shop.
The other example I can think of is the bottle of water story. When we're talking about what is arbitrage, how do you do arbitrage? If you think about when you're checking out at the grocery store with your groceries, there's usually a cooler right there in the line, and you can go buy a bottle of water. It's $1.49, right? You go to, and it's a convenience buy, by the way, right?
Yeah, because if you walk back in the aisle, you could buy a 12-pack for
exactly
99 cents a piece or
it
something.
might be equal to 99 cents a bottle, right?
Yeah.
But you go to the gas station, that same bottle of water is $2.49.
Yes.
You go to the airport, that same bottle of water is $6, right? Or the can of water, like I was traveling recently, and there were cans of water, okay, at the resort. You can pay resort prices, or you can pay grocery store prices. You can pay gas station prices. The resort water was $14.
And our Canadian friends said, 14 US dollars.
Yeah. And so anyway,
but it's not like we were going to drive down the mountain and go get a bottle of water for 79 cents.
You could drive back into a town with a Costco or some wholesale club, and you can park in the monster parking lot. You can walk to the back of the store with a big old cart. You can load up the case of 48 bottles of water, take it to your car so that you can get that bottle of water for 49 cents.
You only need one bottle.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
To get it for 49 cents,
right? So it's the same thing. Yes, I can take the time. In that case, the time is worth it to me to pay $2.49.
And to some people, it is absolutely worth it to them. That's not our target.
You're right. That's not
our target, and that's not who we're finding. We test to see if we can get our target market to buy our things.
So the best piece of advice I can give newer sellers is don't get caught up in buying the item for what you see as the same price on Amazon. As long as you can put yourself in a position where you have protected your capital, like at worst you break even, then there's every
Then
opportunity.
try it at the price. Turn it upside down.
Yeah.
Don't go looking for what I have to buy it for to get this current price.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, that current price is very different for different people across the country,
Yep.
especially if they have to wait for it. Buy it at the price that it is. You can't do anything about that, and test it at the price you need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
We do recommend that it's a fast-moving ASIN and that you have evidence that you won't have to sell lower than your break-even, but why wouldn't you? Break-even's a good deal when you're first getting started. You're trying to build those sales so you can get some of those categories and brands opened up.
Yeah.
That might be more profitable.
And get some reps in, get the cycles in, so
Get
you
some
learn
experience.
throughout the process and all that.
All right. So we had one other way that we can talk about for, yeah.
Want me to rescue you here?
Yes, please help me. How are we going to transition to this next point?
Other topic, yeah. This other topic is just something I've been really digging in on over the last 6 to 8 weeks, and I touched on it a little bit when I was doing the updated Keepa course, Keepa 360, which is now, I believe, included in PAC, where we're doing Keepa plus some other tools. One of the tools I demonstrated at that time was a tool called Nepeto. And Nepeto has some automation built in where it's capable of scraping a particular store or a section of a store. Great
A
gathering.
source store you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about like Lowe's or Home Depot or Target, whatever.
Okay.
And get the information about the products that they're selling and then map that back to Amazon to find matching listings. Okay, in our vernacular, we call that bridging the gap.
Yes.
Okay, where we find a viable ASIN and a viable source. We put those two things together. Now we have a viable ASIN, and that we have to bridge the gap in order to make that happen. We have to find the ASIN, we have to find the source, put those two things together, right? There are automation tools out there, and there have been for quite some time actually that do this, but historically, the match rate on these tools has been less than stellar, and we end up spending more time cleaning up the mismatches than if we hit, at least in my experience, than if I had just gone and done manual sourcing. So I was a huge proponent of just doing manual sourcing, and I still am. Like I'm a manual sourcer at heart.
Yeah. Me too.
But one of the things that I've been doing lately is sort of mining for ASINs in bulk, mining for viable ASINs in bulk. And I want to just take a minute.
And you have a way to do this in Keepa that you show us in Keepa 360.
Yeah, we talk about how to do it in Keepa, Keepa 360. We do like a bulk retail recon. There are ways to do bulk lists by brand. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways to do it in bulk that you can actually then go and do manual sourcing.
Okay.
Or you can take a list of those ASINs and upload them to a tool like Nepeto, and it will tell you if it knows of a viable source. Viable is in quotation marks here because you still have to vet that source, and it'll show you all the ones that match. So it takes out a good portion of that legwork that can be required to create that list of viable ASINs.
Yes.
So now how do we do this in bulk?
Okay.
So what I was thinking about was the gold mining operation. Okay. If we look at the largest gold mining company in the world.
We're not talking about the 49ers. So we're talking about current day gold mining.
Yeah, I'm talking about right now, present day.
Still
gold
happens
miners.
in Colorado very much.
Yeah, they are like across the world, the largest, let's just, whatever it is, the largest gold miner. Okay. They're not going to spend a lot of time looking for the little one-off places, right? If they can't get to it, if it doesn't have a large, proven or suspected to have a large amount of gold deposits, whatever.
And easy to get to.
I thought that's what I said in the first one. But, then they're not really going to waste their time on it, right?
Yeah.
Not unlike an example that was brought up in the show called Landman, where he's looking at these
oil wells,
potential oil fields, right?
Right.
But they're like some don't produce that much, so it's not worth the large oil companies' time and resources to go out and drill for oil.
Put all their equipment there and all their people
But it gives opportunity for the small person, not small in stature, but the small company to go in there and to do their business, which is what we're doing in the Amazon space. The reason that there's still an opportunity for all of us at this moment is because it takes elbow grease. It takes work to go and do that ASIN matching and then validate the source and make sure that it's testable and then figure out how to replenish it, do all the things that we do, that we teach, right?
Well, and I would argue there's opportunity there too, because you can take a whole bunch of those small oil wells or gold mines that aren't producing a lot, put them together and produce a lot as a group.
So I'm reminded of the show called Gold Rush. Okay, Gold Rush.
I don't think I ever watched that, but I'm familiar with what it is.
Only watched a few episodes myself, but the idea behind Gold Rush is there are these remote places that they suspect that there's gold there. Okay, there's evidence, or by a survey, everything that we've learned so far, it would say, this is the kind of place where we have found gold before. Okay.
Right. So we want to test it, see if there actually is gold.
So is it a viable place? We put together the evidence to see, they put together the evidence to see if it's viable. Yes, it's viable. And then they're going to go test it. So they go out there, they do a sample, they believe it or not, when you're mining for gold or silver or any of those precious metals in the ground, there's way more stuff that's not the precious metal than the precious metal.
Right. You have a little bit of experience because you in your old days as an IT tech went to a coal mining company, huge equipment. Like this would not be worth it for some small place. Right. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of things besides gold that you dig out of the ground.
So what you need is then a system to go through a lot of material, in a relatively short amount of time to try and weed out the stuff. To try and weed out the gold, right? Get rid of the stuff that's not gold, keep the gold.
Yeah.
So the system then, instead of going into the place where they suspect that there's gold with picks and shovels and thousands of men.
Yes.
Okay. They go in with earth movers. I'm talking about the kind
machines.
Machines. The kind of equipment that can do tons of material in a scoop, right? Or a ton of material in a scoop. Go in there and move large amounts of dirt or material into a system then that's going to go through all of this stuff and weed the gold out for you. Okay? Weeding gold out doesn't sound quite right. Weed out the stuff that's not gold.
Sort the gold. For gold.
So what do? They take this huge pile of dirt, they put it into this, they dump it into a system that's like, has shakers and it has like little filters for certain weighted and sized things to fall through. And then it goes through water and then it goes through all kinds of different stuff, and then at the end, what it spits out, hopefully, if everything's in your favor, right, is little pieces of gold, nuggets of gold. Well, now we're getting to the point. Sorry, I had to lay the premise down for this, right?
We got some stories today.
This is what I mean when I'm talking about using tools like Keepa and Nepedo for bulk sourcing. But the system, so Nepedo is really good at, say, mining out a whole bunch of material. Here's a whole bunch of material, a whole bunch of matching or what we call viable ASINs. Okay, so we don't have to go theoretically. We don't have to go hunting for a source. This is awesome, right?
Right.
We already have a source and we have an ASIN and we put it together. It still requires a quality check at some point. But
we still have to validate our ASIN, make sure it's not misbranded. We got to validate our source, make sure they're authorized to sell that.
Yeah, we have to do a pre-flight inspection and make sure that it's a valid source and all that.
But it takes out a huge chunk.
But I don't have to do that on every single ASIN that I ever want to consider. What they've done is already put together. If I let's say, for instance, go to Home Depot and I say, show me the, let's say, industrial cleaners, because those things usually have a lot of hazmat, so I'm not giving anything away. And give me the list of matching ASINs for all the industrial cleaners that Home Depot carries. Now, all I have to do, I already have a valid source. Now all I have to do is...
I know Home Depot is authorized to sell the brands that they sell.
Right. So now I have the material. I have huge amounts of material that I'm dumping into my system. And the system here is actually the system, 3P Mercury. What I like to do is go to the stores that Nepedo has, source sections of the store to bring back large amounts of material, which is the source ASIN on Amazon, the source product at the supplier, and then use the power of 3P Mercury. sorry about that, pounding on the desk. I'm so passionate about this, to filter out the ones that I should probably be paying attention to.
Right. I
This
agree.
is the power of systems, right?
Yes. So then we have a system called the 3-step check to decide which of those we should test now and which we should put back to look at later. Things always change. Then we have a system we use a 4-week test to tell us how much we can charge for these and how many we can sell at that price. This is a test that is that we've put together that we use ourselves. We basically start high, and if it doesn't sell at the highest price, go down a little bit. But because of the in-stock Head Start program and the multidimensional buy box and what we know about these things, we don't start our clock like the guy with the $5 brownies until our stuff is ready to ship to someone within the 48-hour window.
In other words, we're not getting aggressive on our pricing. We're not trying to sell our brownie for 75 cents or 99 cents yet.
Because I might sell them all out at 75 cents when I could have sold them for $4 and $5 if I just waited another week or 3 more hours or whatever the case may be.
Right. So anyway, the gold mining system isn't necessarily about selling above the buy box, but it is about using a system to help you find the items that you should be considering. And I'm sure I've said this before, but I was in the initial beta group of the system, or 3P Mercury, coming up on a year ago. And of course, Robin and Joy and I have been doing this for almost 6 years now. So we already have systems. It's not a super easy transition to change out your business's operating system. And so I was not necessarily, I wasn't thrilled.
Wasn't getting anxious about it.
Yeah, I wasn't getting anxious. Well, almost a year has gone by. Now I started, okay, let's take a look at this again, especially because one of our coaching clients was like, hey, yeah, I'm basically applying your process within 3P Mercury. What you talking about, Willis? Okay, so let me jump in there and see what's going on. And sure enough, it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So then I can do. So
now we're in the process of changing everything.
Now we're changing things over, which is great. We're going to be in that situation where we're going to be getting time back because this improves our efficiency. I don't have to spend so much time looking at ASINs and sources. You know, it's almost like I'm just quality checking now. I was always quality checking the leads that we were getting from our contractors, from myself, from you, whatever. I was quality checking before we go to purchase. Now, all I do is quality check. I mean, I have to do some mindless work to dump the material into the top of the system that's going to spit out the gold at the end of the day.
Theoretically, have someone else do that, and
Absolutely.
Probably will.
I am going to turn that over to somebody as soon as I get my system refined around that a little bit more. But yeah, now I can dump large amounts of viable ASINs into the system and turn on a couple of filters and pretty quickly identify testable ASINs. In fact, what I was sharing with a few people is that for the last 2 months or so, my process of identifying 5 test-worthy ASINs each week, because that's how we keep our book of business fresh, takes me about 30 minutes of actual quality checking. Now, I do spend a couple of hours throughout the week, dumping material into the system. But then
that's something that you wouldn't have to do yourself.
Right. I could absolutely outsource that. Then I'm spending about 30 minutes to identify my 5 test-worthy ASINs.
And we've already got systems for the whole rest of the process to take place.
I'm fired up about it. Like, I'm just... So I feel like I got invigorated around this process because, after 5 years, 6 years of sourcing, it's like, oh, here I go again.
Yeah.
Right? Let me find some stores. Let me find some products. Let me, right? But now this is making it so much more efficient. And I'm kind of documenting the process as I go for myself and for us. And this is just, it is a game changer.
That's great. I'm glad you're finding that.
Yep.
So do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
I do have a quote. This actually, we save quotes as we're going throughout the week when we come across something that's good. And this is one that you found a while back. But one of my favorite all-time authors, Napoleon Hill, says, your capacity to believe is your greatest potential asset. Believe being the key component here. We all have the capacity, but can you do it?
Yeah. That it doesn't get done. I think, who did I hear this from? It doesn't get done if you don't believe it can happen.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. You have to have some belief that it will happen. And most people don't come to coaching or to this community because they don't believe something can happen. They may not know exactly what can happen, but they've been convinced that something can happen. They've seen someone else do it, or they've seen a claim and they have come to visit. And when you become a believer in the fact that what you are doing will result in what you want, that takes some building, that takes some creation, some testing to figure that out. But once it happens, it keeps happening.
Oh, I know where it was, that one guy from that one show.
That one guy from that one show.
Yeah,
right.
That's where
That's
he got
the
it.
one. That's the one.
Well, so what
I'm glad you recognized it.
What do you do when your belief is not quite there yet?
Go test more ASINs.
Test more ASINs?
Test more
Let's
ASINs.
go test some more ASINs.
Let's go test more
I'm fired up.
ASINs. All right. See you later, everybody.
Talk to y'all
Thank you.
soon.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today. Before I let you go, I've got a good friend of mine, Mr. Jeff Schick of jeffschick.com. He is our resident policy and Amazon, Walmart, eBay, e-commerce legal expert. He's a lawyer, and he always has an interesting topic for us. What do you got for us today, Jeff?
So what we're talking about today is the concept of not adding products to your catalog until you've got it in your possession. Or until you've ordered it. The reason for that is pretty simple. I'm not going to bore everybody, but when Amazon has a policy enforcement action, whether it's an IP claim, an authenticity review, or a Section 3 supply chain audit, they always ask for documents that are from the 365 days worth of products for purchased or sold on Amazon from before the date of enforcement. Now, why this is important is because let's say you get the enforcement notice on January 1st, 2025. If you have added, say on December 29th, you added one unit to your catalog, but you didn't purchase it yet, and you just added it as fulfillment by merchant, and you tell Amazon, I've got one unit available. They now look and say, okay, you had one unit for sale for the last 365 days. So if they audit you on January 1st, they're going to want purchases showing one unit from before January 1st. So unfortunately, at that point, you can't go on January 1st and say, okay, I got this notice, so I'm going to go purchase this one unit, because it's too late. The date's not before the date of enforcement. So the big thing that we're recommending for sellers is only add products to your catalog that you've purchased. If you add them to the catalog and you're doing it FBA, then just keep it as a zero inventory until you've sent it in. But best practice would be not to add it at all until you've got it, physically, you've made the purchase, you've got the receipt, you've got the order confirmation or the invoice.
It's in your possession.
Yeah. May not need the physical product, but you at least need the invoice in your possession.
Yeah, the invoice. You have the invoice. The product's on the way to you. You have proof that which is another reason. We've come up with probably 30 reasons why drop shipping is a terrible idea. This is just another one.
Right.
Because in that case, you have people listing ASINs they don't have in their possession.
Right.
They may never buy them, but they said that they had them, so they could be audited, and they never even sold one. But in an audit, they can't produce a receipt
for any of them because they said they had it for sale, and Amazon expects.
So reason number 412 why drop shipping is a terrible idea. But even for those of us who are adding products on a regular basis, don't add it and say you've got units until you know the units are on the way and you've placed an order. You've got proof that order's been placed. Yeah, makes total sense, Jeff. Yeah, good tip, man.
Yeah, because we did have a case recently for a seller who was audited. That Amazon asked them for their invoice because they had been in Walmart. They saw a product, they scanned it. It was profitable. They added it to their catalog. They said they had one available. And their business model was that if the item sold on Amazon, they'd go to Walmart down the street, buy it, and ship it.
Right.
Technically, this is within policy. It's not considered drop shipping because they're not going to Walmart and having Walmart ship the product to the customer.
Right.
So you can theoretically do that. The problem is that Amazon wanted proof of authenticity, and they had never sold the product. So they had told Amazon, we've got one unit available for sale, but they hadn't purchased one unit and they couldn't validate the authenticity of the product when they were asked for it.
Right. Makes total sense. Yes. Don't play those games. Yeah. Sell stuff you got, man.
Right.
Don't sell stuff you don't got. Yeah.
Exactly.
Easy policy there. Yeah. But a great tip that can keep you out of trouble. Yeah. Because Amazon does take their Section 3 audits very seriously. And hey, we want to see that you actually bought the stuff that you're claiming to sell on our site. Even to the point where this reminds me of one of the other sessions that you did with this, Jeff, not too long ago. Someone gives you something for Christmas. You're like, oh, I don't really need this. I'm going to flip it on Amazon. Same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't produce an invoice or a receipt that you ever legitimately bought it.
Right, exactly. No, that's true. Same
Or-
thing with the free goods. Say you accidentally,
Yep.
I've seen retailers cancel orders for sellers that they say, we don't sell to resellers, so we've canceled your order. And then the fulfillment team sends the order anyways.
Right.
And then you didn't get charged for it. You got refunded and you received the product for free. The correct answer is not, hey, let's go ahead and send that to Amazon. It's either return to the store, donate
That's
it.
the ethical thing.
Right. But
or they send you a few extra units. You order 50, they send you 54. You sell all 54. No, don't do
you've
that.
got 4 units that you can't account for authenticity on.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep it clean out there, sellers. I love it. Good stuff, Jeff. Appreciate you, man. You've always got such good insights for us. And for those of you who don't know, Jeff, his team is fantastic. It's who I use. It's who so many of the great leaders in our community and so many of our students use. jeffschick.com for all your Amazon policy, legal, and any other e-commerce questions you have in that arena. Run it past his team. When in doubt, call Jeff first. They'll take good care of you. Appreciate you, Jeff. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you very
again
much.
Next week.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Wasn't that a fantastic episode? It may be one you want to go back and listen to again. Our team, again, is at the cutting edge. We're the tip of the spear on this concept. We're helping the tools be developed right now to help us as resellers tap into this incredible opportunity of understanding what it means to sell above the buy box. And one of the thoughts I had when I was listening to Brian and Robin Joy kind of talk through that brownie illustration, remember where, we've got people showing up and some brownies are ready early in the day and some brownies are going to be ready later. And all the early ones kind of got sold out. And the guy who had charged more after they were all sold out, well, he was able to sell them for more money, right? Well, that's one way to look at this above buy box strategy. And I completely agree. But I had the thought as I was listening to it, another way to process this might be, let's say you really want a brownie, same illustration, but all the bakers, they're not in the same building. Some of them are 2 or 3, 5-mile drive away. Some of them are very close. The one in the building you're in right now is the $5 brownie maker. They're the only ones that you can get a brownie from right now. Just walk up, hand them your $5, you got your brownie. But someone standing next to you says, hey, you do realize that if you got in your car and you drove 2 or 3 miles, they've got a guy over there across town. He'd sell them for $2. Same brownie, just as good, same recipe, everything. It's only $2. Do you get in your car or not? Some people would. A lot of people wouldn't. It's like, no, I'm here. I don't want to drive. I don't want the inconvenience. I want it right now. That's the way people shop on Amazon. Some people are willing to wait a few days. They're okay with the inconvenience. They're going to price shop and compare Walmart down the street to the Amazon price on their screen, and they are price sensitive, and they're willing to wait 5 days, 12 days maybe. If you get into that Smart Scout map that we talked about earlier, you'll see those are the scenarios, those are the decisions people are making all day, every day on Amazon. I mean, think of it yourself. You've been on Amazon as a shopper and made these decisions yourself. You've looked at the options on the screen. You've looked at the delivery dates of the item you want, and you've made the decision. I just want to run to Walmart and get this. I'll wait 3 days and pay a little bit more. That's fine. Good for the convenience of it. I don't want to get in my car. That's how people use Amazon. It's a convenience thing. But what you have to realize is the warehouse nearest the shopper has a huge advantage. It doesn't have all the millions of items in Amazon's catalog. It's missing a lot of the most popular items. The warehouse nearest you, let's say you live in the United States, the warehouse closest to you might even know where it is, right now is missing millions of items that you might want. And if one seller happens to send 1 unit of one of those products at a high price to that warehouse, and you hop on Amazon as a shopper and say, yeah, I want this, I want it quick. Oh, sure, I'll pay an extra 10, 12, 15 bucks for this item. No problem, because I can have it in 2 hours. People do that all day, every day. You've done it. I've done it. Everyone who shops on Amazon does it. There are millions of understocked ASINs on Amazon right now. Millions. And we teach you how to easily find them. And then you can start plugging the ones that you're eligible to sell into a software tool like 3P Mercury that tells you when the best time to get in and out of these ASINs might be. Based simply on buy box alone, that's great, but you can start your prices high and then drop down into your worst case scenario buy box later if you want to. These concepts are powerful. We are on the cutting edge. We're influencing tools like Keepa. We're helping build tools like 3P Mercury. We're revolutionizing what it means to be a reseller on Amazon right now. If you're paying attention to the details, it is not about finding cheap prices and beating out the handful of other competitors on ASINs and trying to win the buy box constantly. Hey, you can make great money doing that model. I'm not knocking it at scale. That's what a lot of the big boys do. But if you're not wanting to buy hundreds of units at a time, you're wanting to buy a handful of units at a time and really protect your capital and prove this out and get great returns, selling above buy box is a great thing to add into the mix. If you want to come, I'd mentioned this earlier as well. If you want to come to our event in May, plan on not only coming to the last 3 days of May, that's our Orlando event, May of 2025. The 29th, 30th, and 31st is our big event. Hundreds of people are registered, but you want to come 2 days prior. We've got great room rates. You want to come to a workshop. provenamazoncourse.com/100 is the website that talks about that pre-event workshop on the same location with Brian and Robin Joy, who you just heard, talking through the stuff that we just shared with you in full detail. Laptops open, hitting the keyboards together, looking at your screen, people looking over the shoulder, helping you make, I would say, 3 to 6 months of advancement in your business within just a couple of days. We've done this workshop a handful of times. We've got better content than ever lined up now. We want you there. It's a small group. It will sell out. We will close the doors. We can only serve so many people with that kind of individualized attention over a couple-day period. So when it sells out, sorry, the doors may have already be closed by the time you hear this. I don't know, but we are selling it out. That's going to happen. The event is picking up a lot of momentum right now. I'm signing some incredible speakers to come to our event this year. They're going to blow your minds. People whose names you may be familiar with, really big names, really cool things happening at this event. You've got to be a part of it. So if you can't make all 5 days, yeah, at least come for the 3 days, the 29th, 30th, and 31st of May, 2025, the Proven Conference. Recently voted the top reseller conference in the industry. We're so proud of that as well. You've got to be there. So if you have any questions about any of this, hey, jump into our Facebook group, have a conversation. Don't be shy. At any given time, we've got hundreds and hundreds of conversations happening in our free Facebook group at silentjimdotcom. You can see a link to that group. We just passed 80,000 members. We were recently voted, that's right, the best group for Amazon sellers in the industry. We're pretty proud of that because it's so helpful. It's completely free. Come over to that group. Ask any of these questions. Brian and Robin Joy are in there all the time. I'm in there all the time. Great leaders and coaches on our team are there constantly. We want to serve you. We are so excited about this business model because we see it working for very real people who put in the work every single day. If you're wondering where to get started, if this feels a little over your head today, let me just encourage you, get into the Proven Amazon course. If you liked Brian and Robin Joy today, they created a getting started roadmap for all of our new sellers that holds you by the hand, assumes you know absolutely nothing about e-commerce and selling on Amazon, and takes you step by step into the process to where you are ready to start finding all these great test-worthy ASINs, all these incredible products that are easily sourced, that you can buy from any retail or online website and sell on Amazon at great margins. That's what we teach here. But you got to learn the basics first. Get to provenamazoncourse.com if you're ready to get started. We can't wait to serve you. Thank you for being a listener to our show. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us. There's details at silentjim.com on everything I talked about today. We'd love to have you as part of our community. If you're new around here, we'll have another great episode for you very soon. Talk to you then.